He impregnated poor Maid when she was just a young teenager and kicked her out. Her return years later left everyone shocked. He was the powerful heir of a wealthy dynasty. She was just young, poor Maid, scared and voiceless. When he discovered she was pregnant, his response was vicious. He called her a useless burden, dragged her out by the arm, and threw her into the streets with nothing but the clothes on her back. The gates slammed shut behind her as his family erased her like she never existed. Years later, a convoy of luxury cars rolled up to the same mansion. When the doors opened and she stepped out, no one recognized her at first. But when they did, gasps echoed through the crowd, and the man who once destroyed her life turned ghost white. This is the story of cruelty, survival, and a comeback that no one, least of all him, ever saw coming. What do you think happened next? Hello, family. Welcome back. Before we begin, I have a small but heartfelt request. Please, subscribe. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Every time you click that button, you're helping us share voices that would otherwise be forgotten and stories that deserve to be heard. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from, because together, we are not just telling stories, we are keeping hope alive. The rain fell heavy over the city of Boston that morning, washing the stone walls of Westbrook Mansion until they gleamed like polished steel. From a distance, the mansion looked untouchable, a fortress of wealth, with trimmed gardens and iron gates that whispered no one crosses without permission. Inside those walls, the servants moved like ghosts. They spoke in low voices, kept their heads down, and never lingered near the family's private quarters. Everyone knew the rules, especially the new girl, Clara Brooks, 17, small-framed with tired eyes that still carried a trace of hope. Clara had arrived only 3 weeks earlier. Her father had passed away after a long illness, and her mother's condition was worsening. She needed money for medicine, and working at Westbrook Mansion was supposed to be her miracle. Everyone in her small town said, "If you can serve the Westbrooks, you'll never starve." But no one told her about the fear that lived inside those walls. "Clara, you missed a spot," snapped Mrs. Gray, the head housekeeper, her sharp voice cutting through the grand hallway. "The chandelier must shine, girl, not sparkle halfway." "Yes, Mom," Clara replied quickly, reaching up again with the cloth. Her arms ached, but she didn't dare complain. From the top of the staircase, a voice broke the silence, smooth, calm, and lazy. "Mrs. Gray, you'll work the poor girl to death." Clara turned and saw him. Nathan Westbrook, the eldest son of the family. Tall, dressed in a white shirt with the sleeves rolled, a faint smirk playing on his lips. He looked like a man who owned the world, and knew it. "Good morning, sir," Mrs. Gray said, lowering her head. Nathan nodded slightly, his eyes still on Clara. "You're new," he said. "What's your name?" "Clara, sir," she murmured, avoiding his gaze. "Clara," he repeated, as if tasting the name. "Pretty name. Don't let Mrs. Gray scare you too much. She forgets people have hearts." Mrs. Gray forced a nervous laugh. "Mr. Nathan, this one has potential. I'm just teaching her the family standards." "Of course," Nathan said, turning away. But as he walked off, Clara caught his reflection in the glass. He was still looking at her. That was the first day Nathan spoke to her. In the weeks that followed, he found reasons to be around. Sometimes he would stop by the kitchen when she was cleaning, or offer to carry something heavy for her, things no Westbrook would ever do. "You shouldn't be doing this alone," he'd say, smiling as if they shared a secret. Clara would blush and shake her head. "It's my job, sir." "I told you to call me Nathan," he'd insist, his voice softening. "We're not so different, you and I." But they were. He was born into silk and power. She was born into struggle and silence. Still, his kindness felt like sunlight to a flower that had only known shadow. He made her laugh. He made her believe she was seen. When he found out about her mother's illness, he slipped her an envelope. "Don't argue," he said when she tried to refuse. "It's just to help with her medicine." Tears filled her eyes. "Thank you, sir. Nathan. I don't know how to repay you. Maybe just smile more," he teased. "The house feels warmer when you do." The staff noticed their closeness. Whispers spread through the corridors. "She's next," one maid whispered. "Next for what?" another asked. "For the curse," came the reply. "Every girl Nathan fancies disappears." Clara pretended not to hear. She didn't believe in curses. But some nights, when she lay in her small attic room, she heard things. Muffled cries, doors closing in the dark, the sound of footsteps that stopped outside her door, and then vanished. One cold evening, Nathan asked her to meet him in the garden behind the mansion. The moon was high, the roses silver in its light. "I shouldn't be here," Clara whispered, looking around nervously. He smiled and stepped closer. "Relax, no one can see us. But if Mrs. Gray doesn't control me," he interrupted. "Clara, I can't stop thinking about you. You're not like the others here. You're kind. Real." Her heart pounded. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. He touched her hand. "When my father transfers me to London next month, I'll take you with me. I promise I'll take care of you and your mother." The words melted her fear. And for the first time, Clara believed in something good. Believed in him. But promises made in the dark rarely survive the daylight. 2 months later, Clara stood in front of her mirror, trembling. The test in her hand confirmed what she already knew. She was pregnant. When she told Nathan, his face drained of color. "Pregnant?" he repeated, as if it were a foreign word. "Yes," she said softly. "I thought you'd be happy. You said—" "Clara, do you have any idea what this means?" He began pacing. "My father will destroy me. My mother will—" He stopped, running a hand through his hair. "You can't tell anyone. Do you understand?" "I'm not ashamed, Nathan," she said, her voice shaking. "I thought you loved me." He looked at her then, really looked, and she saw fear in his eyes. Not love, not guilt, just fear. "Clara, please," he said, reaching for her hand. "Let me handle this." But he never handled anything. The next morning, 2 guards came to her quarters. "Mrs. Westbrook wants to see you," one of them said. In the parlor, Margaret Westbrook sat in a velvet chair, her fingers gliding over a cup of tea. Her expression was calm, almost polite. "Clara," she began, "you've been with us for a while now, haven't you?" "Yes, Mom," Clara said quietly, her hands clasped tight. "You've done good work. My husband and I value loyalty. But lately," Margaret paused, eyes narrowing, "I've heard some disturbing rumors." Clara's heart raced. I don't understand." "Oh, I think you do." Margaret set down her cup. "You've been sneaking around with my son. Don't deny it." "The staff talk," Clara's lips parted. "Mom, Nathan loves me," he said. "Love?" Margaret's laugh was sharp. "My dear girl, Nathan doesn't love you. He doesn't even respect you. You were a moment of distraction. A mistake." Tears filled Clara's eyes. "That's not true." "Then let's ask him," Margaret said, her tone icy. "Nathan!" Nathan entered the room, pale and tense. He avoided Clara's eyes. Margaret looked at him. "Tell her what you told me." He hesitated. "Mother!" "Now, Nathan." He swallowed hard, then turned to Clara. "You've been stealing from the family," he said quietly. "Jewelry, money. You forged my signature for personal gain." Clara's jaw dropped. "What?" "Nathan, no, you know that's not true." "Take her away," Margaret said to the guards. "Please!" Clara screamed as they grabbed her arms. "Nathan, tell them the truth." But Nathan didn't move. He stared at the floor, his face like stone. "You said you'd take care of me," she cried. "You said—" He turned away, and that was the last time she saw him. The staff gathered by the door as Clara was dragged outside. Some looked away, others whispered. "Did she really steal?" one asked. "No," another said softly. "She just got too close." The rain poured down, soaking her thin dress as the gates opened. The guards shoved her out. She stumbled onto the muddy road, falling to her knees. The iron gates clanged shut behind her. Inside, the mansion lights glowed warm and golden, like the life she'd been thrown out of. Clara pressed a hand to her stomach and whispered, her voice trembling, "You buried me alive, Nathan." But graves don't stay closed forever. Lightning flashed. The rain fell harder. And somewhere inside that mansion, a mother smiled, a son drank in silence, and the walls of Westbrook began keeping one more secret. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love you to join our community by hitting the subscribe button. Through our stories, we build hope and give future to children and women abused all over the world. Motivate us by subscribing to hitting the subscribe button and turning on your notification bell. Also let us know in the comments where you are watching us from and how this story hit home for you. The snow fell quietly that night, thick, soft, and endless. Boston streets were cold and empty, except for a young woman sitting at the edge of a dimly lit alley, her hands wrapped around a bundle of cloth that barely kept the baby warm. Clara Brooks hadn't eaten in 2 days. Her coat was torn, her shoes soaked, and her eyes hollow from crying. The baby, Noah, whimpered softly against her chest. She rocked him gently, whispering through cracked lips, "It's okay, sweetheart. Mama's here. Mama's right here." She looked up at the night sky, snowflakes melting against her face. God, please don't let him freeze. Her tears mixed with the snow. A car passed, splashing water on her skirt, but she didn't move. The world had already turned its back on her. She had knocked on doors, begged for work, been turned away each time. A fallen girl, they called her. Not fit to serve decent families. For weeks, she had wandered the city, living on scraps, trying to feed her son. Every night, she saw the same dream, the gates of Westbrook Mansion slamming shut, and Nathan's face disappearing behind them. The baby began to cough weakly. Clara held him tighter, her voice trembling. "Please, Noah, please stay with me." A soft voice came from behind her. "Child, what are you doing out here?" Clara turned and saw an older woman in a long grey coat, holding an umbrella. Her face was kind, lined with age but gentle. I'm sorry, Mom," Clara stammered. "I'll move. I didn't mean to." "Hush," the woman said, kneeling beside her. "How old is he?" 3 months, Clara whispered. "And where are you staying?" Clara looked down. "Nowhere." The woman sighed, her eyes full of pity. "You'll both die out here." She helped Clara to her feet and guided her to a small car parked nearby. "My name is Helen. Ward," she said. "You'll come with me. We'll talk later." Helen's home was small, but warm. The fire crackled softly as she handed Clara a blanket and a bowl of soup. "Eat, slowly," she said. "You look half-starved." Clara hesitated. "Why are you helping me?" Helen smiled faintly. "Because once, someone helped me when I didn't deserve it." "Maybe it's my turn," Clara lowered her eyes. "Thank you, Mrs. Ward. You can call me Helen." That night, Clara slept for the first time in weeks, her baby safe beside her. When she woke, sunlight streamed through the window. For the first time since she'd been thrown out, she didn't wake up crying. In the days that followed, Helen learned everything about the mansion, the betrayal, and Nathan Westbrook. Helen listened silently, never judging. When Clara finished, she said, "Men like that build their lives on people like you, but that doesn't mean you stay broken." "I don't know where to start," Clara whispered. "I don't have anything." "You have your mind," Helen said, "and you have pain. Pain can build or destroy. Your choice." Those words stayed with Clara. Months passed, Clara worked around Helen's small nursing supply shop, cleaning, stocking shelves, and helping customers. She learned about medical equipment, bookkeeping, and how to talk to people with confidence. Helen taught her to balance ledgers, negotiate prices, and make smart choices. "You're quick," Helen said one evening as they counted the day's earnings. "You could run this place better than I ever did." Clara smiled faintly. "You're just being kind." "No," Helen said, leaning closer. "You remind me of myself when I was young. But smarter. Don't waste that." And she didn't. 3 years later, Clara had saved enough money to open her own small shop, a medical supply corner store she called Hope Care. She hired 2 employees and worked day and night, learning everything she could about healthcare, business, and management. Her reputation grew. Hospitals began ordering from her directly. She reinvested every dollar, expanding little by little. When Helen passed away peacefully in her sleep 2 years later, Clara cried for days. But Helen left her something, not money, not property, but wisdom and the confidence to rise again. In her will, Helen wrote a single line: "Never forget who you are, but never let who you were define who you become." 10 years after that cold night in the alley, the name Dr. Clara Ward was known across Boston. She had become one of the youngest female CEOs in the city, running Ward Medical Holdings, a major supplier of affordable healthcare technology. Her company helped small clinics in poor communities, the kind of people she once was. She had changed her name legally, Ward, in memory of the woman who saved her life. Few people knew her past. To the world, she was a success story, a woman who came from nothing and built an empire. But behind the calm smile and polished speeches, Clara carried a quiet fire. She never forgot the night she was thrown out, or the face of the man who turned away. Sometimes, when she looked in the mirror, she whispered, "You were right, Nathan. We weren't the same. I had to burn first, to become something stronger." Meanwhile, the Westbrooks were collapsing. News spread like wildfire. Gerald Westbrook, the powerful patriarch, was under investigation for tax fraud and bribery. The family's company, Westbrook Enterprises, was bleeding money. Their once mighty empire was now begging for investors. Nathan's personal life wasn't any better. His marriage to Amelia, the daughter of a wealthy banker, had become a quiet war. "You've gambled away another fortune," she shouted one night. "Do you even care about anything?" Nathan poured himself another drink. "You think you're better than me? You married me for the name, Amelia. Don't pretend otherwise." She threw the glass against the wall. "At least I didn't destroy our family name." Nathan laughed bitterly. "The name was doomed the moment my father started lying." The walls of Westbrook Mansion were still tall, but inside, everything was crumbling. One morning, Clara sat in her office, a glass building overlooking the city skyline. Her assistant, Lydia, entered with a folder. "Dr. Ward, there's a new proposal from Westbrook Enterprises," she said. "They're requesting a meeting. Apparently, they're seeking major investors." Clara froze. "Westbrook?" "Yes," Lydia said. "Their financial situation's bad. They're practically begging for help." Clara reached for the folder. Her hand trembled slightly. She opened it and scanned the first page, the logo, the signatures, the name Nathan Westbrook written at the bottom. For a moment, the past came rushing back. The rain, the gates, his voice saying, "You've been stealing from the family." Lydia frowned. "Should I schedule the meeting, ma'am?" Clara smiled faintly, her tone calm. "Yes. Let's hear what they have to offer." The day of the meeting arrived. Clara wore a black tailored suit, her hair pulled into a sleek bun. Her presence was commanding but effortless, elegance built from scars. When she entered the boardroom, all eyes turned. The room was filled with executives from Westbrook Enterprises, desperate faces trying to hide their fear. At the far end of the table sat Nathan Westbrook. He stood as she entered, smiling politely, his charm as smooth as ever. "Dr. Ward, I've heard so much about you," he said, extending his hand. "It's an honor to finally meet you." Clara hesitated, then reached out and shook his hand. His grip was firm, but his eyes flickered with something: confusion, curiosity. Her voice was steady. "The honor is mine, Mr. Westbrook." As their hands touched, a jolt of recognition seemed to pass through him. His smile faltered for half a second. He stared at her, the way she held herself, the shape of her face, the calm fire in her eyes. "I've seen those eyes before," he thought. "But where?" Clara noticed the flicker of doubt in his expression and allowed the faintest smile to touch her lips. She turned toward the others. "Let's begin," she said smoothly. "We have a lot to discuss." The room fell silent as she opened the presentation. Her voice was calm, confident, every word a blade disguised as silk. Nathan watched her closely, something uneasy stirring in his chest. He couldn't place it, but he felt it deep inside, that strange, haunting familiarity. When the meeting ended, he stood again, still trying to read her face. "Dr. Ward," he said softly, "I hope this is the beginning of something great between our companies." Clara's eyes met his. They were the same eyes that had looked up at him in the rain 12 years ago, filled with pain then, and power now. "Perhaps," she said quietly, holding his gaze. "But you never know what beginnings can cost, Mr. Westbrook." Nathan blinked, caught off guard by her tone. She smiled politely, gathered her files, and walked out, her heels clicking against the marble floor like echoes of ghosts he couldn't remember. The door closed behind her. Nathan stood frozen, the memory tugging at the back of his mind, whispering something he couldn't yet see. But soon he would. The morning sun glowed over the Boston skyline as Dr. Clara Ward stood in front of the tall glass windows of her office. The city looked peaceful, unaware of the quiet storm she was about to unleash. It had been months since her first meeting with Nathan Westbrook. He still didn't know who she was, but she knew every detail about him, his debts, his failing marriage, his lies. That was her power now. Knowledge. She didn't need to shout. She didn't need to strike. She just needed to wait and let the right cracks break on their own. Clara spent the following week studying the Westbrook family from a distance. She hired investigators, accountants, and private analysts, all under strict confidentiality. Slowly, the picture became clear. Gerald Westbrook, once the king of Boston's corporate world, was now a ghost in hiding. The corruption charges had eaten away his fortune and reputation. He barely left the mansion. Margaret Westbrook, still elegant but colder than ever, was trying to keep up appearances, throwing luncheons and charity teas, pretending nothing had changed. But even her jewelry had been sold quietly, piece by piece. And Nathan? Nathan was still pretending too. He still walked into meetings with that same smile, the one that used to make her heart flutter. But she saw what others didn't. The fear behind his charm. Late at night, she'd watch him on her screen. A video feed from a hidden contact inside his company. She watched him lose his temper. She watched him drink. She watched him destroy himself one lie at a time. She never smiled watching it. There was no joy in revenge, only necessity. Her assistant, Lydia, knocked on the door one morning. "Dr. Ward, Westbrook Enterprises has accepted your proposal to partner on the hospital charity initiative. They want you to co-host the gala." Clara turned slowly, her voice calm. "The gala? At the mansion?" "Yes," Lydia said. "Apparently Mrs. Westbrook herself requested it." Clara's lips curved into a faint smile. "Perfect." She dismissed Lydia and stared out the window again. The Westbrook mansion, the place where she was humiliated, destroyed, erased. Now they wanted her to stand on its stage as their savior. Later that week, Clara received a personal invitation to tea from Amelia Westbrook, Nathan's wife. The note read, "I would love to meet the woman who's saving my husband's legacy." Clara accepted. They met at a high-end cafe downtown. Amelia arrived wearing a designer coat and oversized sunglasses, her smile polite but strained. "Dr. Ward," she said, extending her hand, "it's such an honor. I've heard so much about you." Clara shook her hand. "The honor is mine, Mrs. Westbrook." "Please," Amelia said, sitting down. "Call me Amelia. We're practically partners now." Clara smiled slightly. "As you wish." They talked for a while, about the charity, the hospital, the media buzz. Amelia was charming, but Clara could sense the cracks beneath her perfect tone. The woman was fragile, exhausted. After their third cup of coffee, Amelia finally sighed. "I suppose you've heard the rumors," she said, her voice low. Clara tilted her head. "About what?" "My husband," Amelia whispered. "He's not the man people think he is." Clara kept her face calm, her voice gentle. "In what way?" Amelia gave a bitter laugh. "He's been cheating. With assistants, models, even clients. I've known for years. He hides money, lies about deals, and pretends everything's fine. I used to love him. Now I just want peace." Clara looked at her. This woman sitting across from her, living in the same illusion she once did. For a brief second, she almost felt pity. Almost. "I'm sorry you're going through that," Clara said softly. "But sometimes, peace comes only after truth." Amelia smiled sadly. "You sound like you've lived it." Clara met her eyes. "You have no idea. The night of the charity gala arrived. A night that would be remembered forever. The Westbrook mansion glittered again, dressed in gold lights and banners that read, 'Together for Tomorrow.' It was a scene out of old times, champagne, laughter, cameras flashing. Reporters called it the Westbrooks' grand return to grace. But beneath the music and chatter, there was tension. The staff whispered as Clara's car pulled up, a sleek black sedan with tinted windows. When the door opened, she stepped out in a long silver gown. Her hair was swept back, her diamond earrings catching the light. Every camera turned toward her. Nathan was the first to greet her. "Dr. Ward," he said warmly, taking her hand. "You look stunning." Clara smiled. "Thank you, Mr. Westbrook. You clean up nicely yourself." He laughed, the charm still easy. "I'm glad you came. This event means a lot to my family." "I'm sure it does," she said, her tone calm. "After everything that's happened, I'd imagine reputation means more than ever." He blinked, caught off guard. "You don't hold back, do you?" "Never did," she replied. "Not anymore." Throughout the evening, she moved through the room gracefully, greeting investors, shaking hands, smiling at cameras. But behind every word, she was pulling strings. Every donation pledge that night went through Ward Medical's foundation. Every deal was signed under her terms. Piece by piece, she was taking back the power they'd once stolen from her. From across the room, Margaret Westbrook watched her closely. Her old eyes narrowed. There was something in the way that woman carried herself. Strong, calm, familiar. During a break between speeches, Margaret cornered her son. "That woman," she said quietly. "There's something about her." Nathan frowned. "What are you talking about?" "She has the same fire in her eyes," Margaret hissed. "The same one as that girl." "What girl?" Margaret stared at him. "The maid. The one you ruined." Nathan chuckled nervously. "Mother, that was years ago." Margaret's tone sharpened. "Evil doesn't die with time, Nathan. It waits." Nathan rolled his eyes. "You're overthinking again." But her words lingered in his mind. Later that night, Nathan found Clara standing alone on the balcony overlooking the garden. The same garden where he'd once made his promises and broken them. The air was cool. The music inside had softened to a distant hum. "You disappeared after the meeting," he said, stepping beside her. "I was beginning to think you didn't like parties." I prefer to watch, she said quietly. You learn more when you're not the one talking. He smiled. You're mysterious, Dr. Ward. I like that. She glanced at him. Do you? Sure, he said, leaning on the railing. You have this calm, confident thing going on. But I can tell there's more to you. Something dark, maybe. Pain, perhaps. Clara turned toward him, her voice like silk. Do you ever think about the people you've buried to stay on top? He frowned, caught off guard. Excuse me? People you've hurt, she continued, her eyes steady. The ones who trusted you. The ones you threw away. Nathan laughed awkwardly. You make it sound like I'm some kind of villain. Maybe not a villain, she said softly, but perhaps a man who never looked back at the graves he dug. He smirked. And if I did? Her gaze hardened. Then you'd see some of them learned how to crawl back. The words hit him like ice water. He stared at her. Something in her tone, her eyes, her face. But before he could speak, she turned and walked back inside. The lights dimmed as the host took the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced, please welcome our keynote speaker and tonight's co-host, the incredible Dr. Clara Ward. Applause filled the room as Clara stepped forward. The spotlight bathed her in white light. Her calm expression didn't waver, even as her heart pounded beneath the fabric of her dress. She looked over the crowd, the rich, the powerful, the ones who never knew her name 12 years ago. And then her gaze landed on Nathan and Margaret sitting in the front row. She smiled faintly. Good evening, everyone, she began, her voice smooth. Thank you for being here tonight. This event is about more than charity. It's about redemption, about second chances, and about truth. A murmur passed through the crowd. Margaret shifted uneasily. Clara paused, then continued, her voice firm now. Some of you may know me as Dr. Clara Ward, but that's not the name I was born with. Nathan's smile faltered. Clara took a deep breath. My name is Clara Brooks. You might remember me as your maid. The room fell silent. The camera lights flickered. Glasses froze in midair. Somewhere, someone gasped. Nathan's face went white. Margaret's hand clutched her pearls. Every secret they'd buried came rushing back like a wave crashing through the room. And Clara stood there, calm, radiant, unstoppable. 12 years ago they threw her out in the rain. Tonight she stood above them, elegant, unbroken, and in control. The silence after Clara's words was almost painful. The ballroom, once filled with laughter, music, and champagne, now felt frozen in time. Every guest stared at her, unsure if they had heard correctly. My name, Clara repeated, her voice calm and unwavering, is Clara Brooks. 12 years ago, I was a maid in this mansion. I was 17. I trusted this family, and they destroyed me. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Flashbulbs went off as reporters began recording, hungry for scandal. Nathan stood frozen in his chair, color draining from his face. Margaret clutched her pearls so tightly her knuckles turned white. Clara continued, her eyes locked on them both. I was thrown out into the streets with nothing but the clothes on my back. And the man who promised to protect me called me a liar and a thief. Her voice cracked slightly, but she steadied it. Tonight, I stand here not as that broken girl, but as the woman who rebuilt everything you tried to take from me. The audience murmured, confused, fascinated, horrified. Clara reached into her folder on the podium and held up a small envelope. You said I lied. You said I made everything up. But lies can't hide forever. She opened the envelope and held up a document for all to see. This, she said, is the DNA report confirming what you already know, Nathan. Nathan's head jerked up. Clara. Her voice cut through him like glass. No, don't say my name. You lost the right to speak it years ago. The crowd gasped again as her words echoed through the grand room. This test proves, she continued, her voice steady, that Noah Ward, my son, is yours. The sound that followed was chaos. Reporters shouted, cameras flashed. Amelia, Nathan's wife, stood up, her face pale. "Is this true?" she demanded, turning to Nathan. "Tell me she's lying." Nathan couldn't speak. His lips moved, but no sound came. Amelia's eyes filled with fury and humiliation. She slapped him hard across the face before the entire crowd. Then she turned to Clara, trembling. "I'm sorry for what he did to you," she whispered. "You didn't deserve it." And without another word, Amelia stormed out, leaving the room in shock. Clara looked toward Margaret, who was shaking her head slowly. "You," Margaret whispered, "you ruined my son's life." Clara stared back coldly. "No, Mrs. Westbrook. You ruined your own bloodline the day you taught your son that people were disposable." Margaret opened her mouth to respond, but suddenly her face went pale. Her hand gripped her chest as she gasped for breath. The crowd rushed toward her, but Clara stood still, her expression unreadable. The medics were called. The music had stopped. The Westbrook family's empire, its name, its pride, its illusion, was collapsing in real time. Reporters hounded Nathan as he stumbled out of the ballroom, chased by cameras and flashing lights. "Mr. Westbrook, is it true? Do you have a secret child? Did your mother cover up the scandal?" He pushed through the crowd, his perfect image shattered. And Clara? She simply walked out through the same doors she'd once been thrown through, this time, with her head held high. Outside, the night air was cool and still. She took a deep breath, her chest rising and falling slowly. It was over, at least the part that used to haunt her dreams. The next morning, every newspaper in Boston carried the same headline: Westbrook Empire, shattered by hidden scandal. CEO's secret son revealed. Investors began pulling out. The company's stock dropped by 60% in 2 days. Nathan's reputation was gone. So was his marriage, his fortune, his pride. Clara didn't watch the news. She didn't need to. She already knew what truth could do. It burned cleaner than revenge. 2 days later, she received an unexpected visitor at her office. "Send him in," she told Lydia. Nathan walked in, looking nothing like the man she once knew. His eyes were red, his suit wrinkled, his voice unsteady. "Clara," he began, but she didn't look up. "What do you want?" she asked quietly. I had to see you." "I had to explain." "There's nothing left to explain," she said. He stepped closer. "I was young, Clara. I was scared. My mother, she told me if I didn't do what she said, my father would disown me." Clara raised her head slowly, her eyes cold and sharp. "You weren't afraid, Nathan. You were proud. You didn't want to be seen with someone beneath you." He swallowed hard. "I know. I ruined everything. I ruined you." "No," she said softly. "You tried to, but you failed." He sank into the chair across from her. "What about our son?" Her expression softened, but only for a moment. "Our son," she repeated, "is mine. You don't get to claim him now that your world's fallen apart." He covered his face with his hands, his shoulders shaking. "Please, Clara. I don't want money. I don't want power. I just want to see him." Clara stood. "You'll see him when he decides he wants to see you. Not before." Nathan nodded weakly, his voice breaking. "I deserve that." She looked at him one last time. "You deserve the truth, and now you have it." That's all he stood to leave, but paused at the door. "Clara, for what it's worth, I'm sorry." She didn't answer. As he walked out, she whispered quietly, "Sorry doesn't rebuild graves, Nathan." Weeks later, the Westbrook mansion was almost empty. Most of the staff had left. The gardens were overgrown. The once golden Westbrook sign above the gate had begun to rust. Clara returned one last time, not for vengeance, but for closure. The new owners, her foundation, were taking over the property. The mansion would become the headquarters of the Ward Foundation, a charity for single and abandoned mothers, a place for women like her to start again. As the workers began replacing the letters on the gate, Clara stood beside her teenage son, Noah. He looked up at her. This was his house. It used to be, she said softly. Now it's ours. In a different way. Noah nodded, staring at the big, empty mansion. You really used to live here? Clara smiled faintly. For a little while. Until they taught me how cruel people can be. Noah was quiet for a moment. Then he said, And you forgave them? She looked at him, her eyes calm. Forgiveness isn't for them. It's for us. So we can move forward. He nodded again, understanding more than he realized.
I was sitting at my desk during lunch break when I saw it. My coworker Jennifer had her phone out, scrolling through social media, and she suddenly gasped. Oh my God, Simone, isn't this your stepdaughter? My heart stopped when I looked at her screen. There was Brielle, the girl I raised from age 3, wearing a stunning white wedding dress. She was smiling at a man I'd never seen before, surrounded by flowers and happy guests. I grabbed the phone from Jennifer's hand, my fingers shaking so hard I almost dropped it. I scrolled through the photos, each one a stab to my chest. Brielle laughing. Brielle cutting cake. Brielle dancing. And then I saw him. Todd. My husband of 21 years, standing right there in a fancy suit, grinning like he'd won the lottery. He was in the family photos. He was giving a toast. He was hugging Brielle while tears ran down her face. I felt like I couldn't breathe. The office walls seemed to close in on me. Jennifer kept asking if I was okay, but I couldn't speak. I just stared at those photos, trying to understand what I was seeing. 21 years. I had been Brielle's mother for 21 years. I was there for her first day of school. I was there when she got her period and didn't know what to do. I was there through every breakup, every achievement, every moment that mattered. But I wasn't there for her wedding day. I ran to the bathroom and locked myself in a stall. The tears came hard and fast. I thought about all the times Brielle called me Mama Simone when she was little. I thought about the Mother's Day cards she made me in elementary school. I thought about sitting up with her all night when she had the flu in high school, holding her hair back while she got sick, cleaning her up, making her comfortable. I thought about the house. 3 years ago, when Brielle graduated from college, I bought her a house. A whole house. It cost me almost everything I'd saved from my years working as a nurse. Todd said it was too much, but I didn't care. I wanted Brielle to have something solid, something that said, I love you and I believe in you. She cried when I gave her the keys. She said I was the best mother anyone could ask for. But apparently, I wasn't good enough to invite to her wedding. I pulled myself together enough to leave work early. I told my supervisor I was sick, which wasn't exactly a lie. I felt sick to my stomach. The drive home was a blur. I kept seeing those photos in my mind. Todd knew. He had to have known for weeks, maybe months. You don't just show up to a wedding in a custom suit without planning. Our house looked the same as always when I pulled into the driveway. The flowers I'd planted last spring were blooming. The porch light was on the timer I'd set. Everything looked normal, but nothing would ever be normal again. I sat in my car for a long time trying to figure out what to say. How do you confront someone about a betrayal this big? Finally, I got out and walked inside. Todd was in the living room watching television, eating chips like it was any other Tuesday. When he saw my face, his expression changed. He knew that I knew. Simone, he started, but I held up my hand. When was the wedding? My voice came out steady, which surprised me. He couldn't look at me. Saturday. This past Saturday? 3 days ago? He nodded, still staring at the floor. And you were there. She's my daughter. Those 3 words hit me harder than anything else. She's my daughter. Not our daughter. His daughter. After 21 years of me being her mother in every way that mattered, I was nothing. I was nobody. I raised her, I said quietly. I raised her from the time she was 3 years old. I was the one who taught her to tie her shoes. I was the one who helped her with homework every night. I was the one who sat through every school play, every soccer game, every recital. Where was her biological mother during all that? Where was Nicole? Todd finally looked at me and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Guilt, yes, but also something else. Something that looked like he'd been caught doing something he knew was wrong but didn't plan to stop. Nicole was at the wedding too, he said softly. The room spun. I had to sit down before I fell down. Nicole. The woman who abandoned Brielle when she was 2 years old. The woman who chose drugs over her own child. The woman who I'd spent 2 decades cleaning up after, being the mother she refused to be. You invited your ex-wife, the woman who abandoned your child, to Brielle's wedding, I said slowly, trying to process it. But not me. The woman who actually raised her. It wasn't my choice, Todd said, but his voice was weak. Then whose choice was it? He didn't answer, but he didn't need to. I already knew. Brielle made that choice. The girl I loved like she came from my own body had decided I wasn't worth a place at her wedding. And Todd, my husband, had gone along with it. He'd gotten dressed up, gone to the wedding, smiled for photos, and pretended I didn't exist. I stood up and walked to our bedroom. I needed to be alone. I needed to think. Behind me I heard Todd calling my name, but I closed the door and locked it. I sat on the edge of the bed, the same bed where I'd comforted Brielle through nightmares when she was little, and I let myself cry. 21 years of my life. 21 years of love, sacrifice, and dedication. And this was how it ended. With wedding photos on social media that I wasn't supposed to see. With a husband who betrayed me. With a daughter who forgot everything I'd done for her. But even through the tears, something else started to grow inside me. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was anger. Cold, clear anger. And with that anger came a decision. If they could erase me from Brielle's wedding, I could erase some things too. Starting with that house. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling while Todd slept in the guest room. My mind kept racing, going over every detail of the past few months. Had there been signs? Had I missed something obvious? Then I remembered. 2 months ago, Brielle had called to ask if she could stop by the house I'd bought her. She said she needed to measure some things for furniture. I'd offered to come help, but she'd said she was busy and would do it another time. She never did come by. Now I understood why. She was probably preparing it for after her wedding, maybe planning to live there with her new husband. The house was a 3-bedroom cottage in a nice neighborhood. It had cost me $200,000, almost every penny I'd saved over 15 years of working double shifts at the hospital. I'd wanted Brielle to have stability, something she could always count on. I'd put it in my name only because Todd and I had agreed that it would protect the asset if anything happened. Now I was grateful for that decision. When morning came, I got up and got ready for work like normal. Todd was already in the kitchen when I came downstairs. He looked like he hadn't slept either. "We need to talk," he said. "I have nothing to say to you right now." I poured myself coffee and grabbed my keys. "Simone, please. Let me explain." I turned to face him. In the morning light, he looked older than I remembered. There were gray hairs I hadn't noticed before, lines around his eyes. Had I been so busy taking care of everyone else that I'd stopped really seeing my own husband? "Explain what?" I asked. "Explain how you lied to me for months? Explain how you watched me talk about Brielle, worry about Brielle, love Brielle, all while knowing she was planning a wedding I wasn't invited to? She said you wouldn't fit in." The words hung in the air between us. I waited for him to take them back, to say he'd misspoken, but he just stood there looking miserable. "I wouldn't fit in," I repeated slowly. "At my own daughter's wedding. The daughter I raised. I wouldn't fit in." "Her biological mother's family is different," Todd said, and I could hear him struggling to find the right words. Nicole's side is very involved now. They have money, connections. Brielle wanted the wedding to be a certain way, and she thought I would embarrass her." Todd didn't deny it, and that told me everything I needed to know. After all these years of providing for Brielle, of working extra shifts to buy her things, of sacrificing my own needs for hers, she was ashamed of me. And Todd had accepted that. He'd chosen his biological daughter's snobbery over his wife's dignity. I left for work without saying goodbye. All day I couldn't focus. Patients needed care, but my mind was somewhere else. During my break, I did something I'd been avoiding. I looked up Nicole on social media. What I found made my blood boil. Nicole had reinvented herself. Her profile was full of photos of her looking healthy and successful, posing in expensive clothes at fancy restaurants. Her bio said she was a life coach and wellness consultant. There were even photos of her with Brielle, dozens of them from the past 2 years. Brielle had never mentioned seeing her biological mother. She told me they barely talked. But these photos told a different story. Shopping trips, lunch dates, spa days, and yes, wedding planning. There were photos of them looking at dresses, at venues, tasting cakes. Nicole had been part of everything, and I'd been completely left out. I felt like I was looking at someone else's life, an alternate reality where I didn't exist. In the comments, people called Nicole such a good mom, and talked about how beautiful her relationship with her daughter was. Nobody mentioned the years of abandonment. Nobody mentioned the addiction. Nobody mentioned me. When I got home that evening, Todd was waiting for me. He'd cooked dinner, something he rarely did. It was sitting on the table, getting cold. I'm sorry, he said as soon as I walked in. Simone, I'm so sorry. I should have told you. I should have insisted they invite you. But you didn't. Brielle said if I told you she'd uninvite me too. She said it was her day and her choice. He looked genuinely upset, but I couldn't find it in myself to care. So you chose her over me. She's my child. And I'm your wife. I've been your wife for 21 years. I raised your child when her own mother couldn't be bothered. I gave up my dreams, my time, my money, everything to make sure Brielle had a good life. And you chose her feelings over mine. Todd reached for my hand but I pulled away. What do you want me to do? He asked. Tell me how to fix this. I thought about the house. I thought about Brielle living there, maybe already moved in with her new husband, enjoying the home I'd provided while erasing me from her life. I thought about all the sacrifices that had led to nothing but betrayal. I'm going to sell the house, I said. Todd's face went white. What? No. Simone, you can't. That's Brielle's house. Actually, it's my house. It's in my name. I paid for it. And I'm going to sell it. But you gave it to her. I gave it to the daughter who loved me. The one who called me mama. The one who appreciated what I did for her. But that daughter doesn't exist anymore, does she? This new Brielle, the one who thinks I don't fit in with her fancy new family, she doesn't need a house from someone like me. You're being cruel. I laughed and it came out bitter. I'm being cruel? Todd, your daughter got married and didn't invite me. You went to that wedding and lied to me about where you were. You've been helping Nicole worm her way back into Brielle's life while pushing me out. And I'm the one being cruel? Brielle will be devastated. Good. Then she'll know how I feel. Todd got angry then. That house is worth a lot of money. Money you saved while we were married. I have a right to half of it. Actually, you don't. I saved that money from my income before we combined finances. I have pay stubs and records proving every dollar came from my work. My lawyer already confirmed it's mine alone. That was a lie. I hadn't talked to a lawyer yet. But I would first thing tomorrow morning. Todd stared at me like he was seeing a stranger. Maybe he was. Maybe I'd been so busy being the person everyone needed me to be that neither of us knew who I really was anymore. Don't do this, he said quietly. Please. Brielle made a mistake but she's young. She'll realize what she did wrong. Don't punish her like this. I'm not punishing her, I said. I'm just stopping the rewards for treating me like garbage. There's a difference. I went upstairs, leaving Todd and his cold dinner behind. In our bedroom, I pulled out my laptop and started researching lawyers. I also looked up real estate agents. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. My phone buzzed. It was a text from a number I didn't recognize. When I opened it, I saw a photo from Brielle's wedding. Someone had sent me the professional pictures. I scrolled through them, torturing myself. There was Brielle with Nicole, looking like the perfect mother-daughter pair. There was Todd dancing with his daughter. There was the whole family together, Todd's parents, his siblings, everyone except me. The last photo was of Brielle's bouquet toss. A group of young women were reaching for it, laughing and happy. I wondered if any of them knew about me. I wondered if Brielle had told people she had a stepmother who raised her, or if she'd just let everyone assume Nicole had been there all along. I deleted the photos and blocked the number. Then I made a list of everything I needed to do. Call a lawyer. Call a real estate agent. Get my financial records together. Protect myself. For 21 years I'd protected everyone else. It was time to protect myself. The law office of Patterson and Associates was on the third floor of a building downtown. I'd taken a personal day from work, something I rarely did. My hands shook a little as I pushed open the glass door. The receptionist smiled at me. You must be Simone. Miss Patterson is ready for you. Phoebe Patterson wasn't just my lawyer. She was also my best friend from college. We'd lost touch for a while when I got married and had Brielle to take care of, but we'd reconnected a few years ago. She knew my whole story. When I walked into her office, Phoebe took one look at my face and came around her desk to hug me. I saw the photos, she said. Jennifer posted them. I'm so sorry. I'd forgotten that Phoebe and Jennifer were friends too. Of course she'd seen them. Everyone had probably seen them except me until it was too late. I need to know my options, I said, sitting down. The house, the marriage, everything. Phoebe pulled out a legal pad. Let's start with the house. You said it's in your name only? Yes. I bought it 3 years ago with money I'd saved from before Todd and I combined our finances. Do you have documentation? Pay stubs, bank statements, everything. I kept records. Phoebe nodded, making notes. Good. That makes it clear the house is your separate property. You can sell it whenever you want. He can't stop you. Relief washed over me. What about the marriage? That's more complicated. You've been married 21 years. In this state, that's a long marriage. You'll need to divide assets acquired during the marriage. Your retirement accounts, the family home, cars, everything. I don't care about any of it, I said. I just want out. Don't say that yet. You've earned half of everything you built together. Don't let anger make you give away what's yours. She was right, but I was so tired. Tired of fighting, tired of caring, tired of being the person everyone used and then threw away. There's something else, Phoebe said carefully. You should check your bank accounts. All of them. Joint accounts, credit cards, everything. Why? Because betrayal usually goes deeper than we first realize. If Todd hid a wedding from you, what else might he have hidden? That afternoon, I went home while Todd was at work and started going through our financial records. It took hours. We had bank statements going back years, credit card bills, investment accounts. Most of it looked normal at first. Then I started seeing the patterns. Small withdrawals. Always cash. 200 here, 300 there. They'd been going on for almost 5 years, but they'd increased in the last 2. I added them up and felt sick. Over $50,000 had been withdrawn from our joint account in cash over the past 5 years. I called Phoebe. I found something. Tell me. I explained the withdrawals. She was quiet for a moment. That's a lot of money. Did you ever discuss these withdrawals with Todd? No. I didn't even notice them until now. We each had access to the joint account for household expenses. I trusted him. Do you have any idea where the money went? I didn't, but I was going to find out. When Todd came home that evening, I had the bank statement spread across the kitchen table. What's all this? He asked, but his face told me he already knew. You tell me. Where did $50,000 go? He couldn't meet my eyes. I can explain. I'm listening. He sat down heavily. Nicole needed help. After she got clean, she was trying to rebuild her life. She needed money for rehab costs, for therapy, for getting back on her feet. I wanted to help. I stared at him. You've been sending money to your ex-wife for 5 years? The same woman who abandoned your daughter? The same woman who chose drugs over her own child? She changed. She got better. Brielle deserved a chance to know her real mother. I am her real mother. I shouted, losing control. I was there. I raised her. Where was Nicole when Brielle had pneumonia and almost died? Where was Nicole for every birthday, every Christmas, every single day for 20 years? She was sick. Addiction is a disease. And lying to your wife? Stealing from your wife? What disease is that? Todd's face hardened. I didn't steal. It was our money. Money I helped earn. Money I thought was going to our retirement, our future. Instead, you've been funding your ex-wife's comeback while she turned my daughter against me. Brielle's not your daughter. The words cut through me like glass. Todd realized what he'd said and tried to take it back, but it was too late. The truth was out. After 21 years, he'd finally said what he really thought. Get out, I said quietly. Simone, get out of my house. Pack a bag and leave. I don't care where you go. Go to Brielle. Go to Nicole. I don't care. Just get out. This is my house too. Then I'll leave. I grabbed my purse and keys and walked out. I heard Todd calling after me, but I didn't stop. I got in my car and drove with no destination in mind. Eventually, I found myself at Phoebe's house. She opened the door in her pajamas. It was almost 10 at night. What happened? I told her everything. The money to Nicole. Todd's words. The realization that everything I'd believed about my family was a lie. Phoebe made tea and let me cry on her couch. You can stay here as long as you need, she said. But Simone, you need to act fast. If Todd is sending money to Nicole, if they've been working together to push you out of Brielle's life, you need to protect your assets now. How? Tomorrow we file for divorce. We also put the house on the market immediately. And we open new bank accounts in your name only and transfer your portion of the joint funds. Isn't that illegal? No. You're entitled to protect your share of marital assets once you've decided to divorce. We'll follow every rule, do everything by the book. But we do it fast before Todd can hide more money or try to claim the house. I spent the night in Phoebe's guest room, but I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything I'd lost. Not just Brielle and Todd, but years of my life. I'd worked so hard, sacrificed so much, and for what? To be erased from the family I'd built. But then I thought about that house. The house I'd bought with my own money, my own sweat and tears. At least I could control that. At least I could make one decision that was entirely mine. In the morning, Phoebe and I went to her office early. We drafted divorce papers. We contacted a real estate agent about listing the house. We set up new accounts at a different bank and transferred half of the joint funds into my name. By noon, everything was in motion. The divorce papers would be served to Todd at his office. The house would be listed by the end of the week. My money was protected. My phone rang constantly. Todd called 17 times. Brielle called 9 times. I didn't answer any of them. Finally, a text came through from Brielle. Dad told me what you're doing. How could you? That house was supposed to be mine. You gave it to me. I stared at that text for a long time. Part of me wanted to explain to make her understand. But Phoebe's words echoed in my mind. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting yourself. I typed back, you made your choice at your wedding. I'm making mine now. Then I blocked her number. Phoebe looked over at me. How do you feel? Honestly, I feel powerful. For the first time in 21 years, I feel like I have control over my own life. Good. Hold on to that feeling. You're going to need it. She was right. This was just the beginning. The divorce papers were served to Todd on a Wednesday afternoon. By Wednesday evening he was at Phoebe's door demanding to see me. Phoebe, being the good friend and lawyer she was, told him to communicate through her office and closed the door in his face. I watched from the upstairs window as he stood on the sidewalk, looking defeated. Part of me felt sorry for him. But then I remembered the wedding photos, the secret money transfers, the 21 years of putting his needs above mine, and the sympathy faded. Don't feel bad, Phoebe said, coming up behind me. He made his choices. You're just responding to them. The real estate agent called the next morning. Her name was Patricia, and she'd sold houses in Brielle's neighborhood before. This is a hot market, she said. Houses like this sell fast. I think we can list it at $250,000 and get offers within a week. My heart jumped. That was $50,000 more than I'd paid for it 3 years ago. That much. Property values in this area have gone up. It's a seller's market. When can I come take photos? Whenever you want. I have the keys. We scheduled it for Saturday morning. When I hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Oh. On Friday I went back to work. My coworkers knew something was wrong, but they were kind enough not to ask too many questions. During lunch, I sat in my car and finally listened to the voicemails Todd and Brielle had left. Todd's messages went from angry to desperate to manipulative. You're throwing away our whole marriage over one mistake. Think about what you're doing to our family. This isn't like you, Simone. Someone's putting ideas in your head. Brielle's messages were worse. She cried through most of them, but there was an edge to her voice I'd never heard before. You're being selfish. That house was supposed to be mine and Jeremy's first home. I can't believe you'd do this to me after everything Dad and I have done for you. After everything they'd done for me. As if I was the one who owed them something. As if the last 21 years had been them doing me a favor instead of the other way around. I deleted all the voicemails and went back to work. Saturday morning, Patricia arrived at the house with a photographer. I'd warned Todd we were coming and he'd agreed to make himself scarce. The house was clean but impersonal. Brielle had never really decorated it much. She'd used it more like a storage unit than a home. Beautiful bones, Patricia said walking through. Hardwood floors, updated kitchen, good natural light. This will show well. We spent 2 hours staging and photographing. Patricia had brought some furniture and decorations from her staging warehouse to make the rooms look more lived in. By the time we were done, the house looked like a home someone would want to buy. I'll have the listing up by Monday, Patricia said. Are you ready for offers to come in fast? I'm ready. That evening, Phoebe took me out to dinner. It was the first time I'd been to a restaurant in weeks. We sat outside on the patio and I felt the tension in my shoulders start to ease. You're doing the right thing, Phoebe said, raising her glass of wine. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you are. I keep thinking about Brielle when she was little, I admitted. She was so sweet. She would draw me pictures and leave them on my pillow. She'd hold my hand in the grocery store. Where did that little girl go? She grew up. And sometimes when people grow up, they forget the people who helped them get there. Do you think she'll ever understand why I'm doing this? Phoebe was quiet for a moment. Maybe. Maybe not. But that's not why you're doing it. You're doing it because you deserve better than being treated like you're disposable. The next few days were a blur. The listing went live on Monday, and by Monday afternoon, we had 3 showing requests. By Tuesday evening we had 2 offers. By Wednesday we had 5 offers, 2 of them over asking price. Patricia called me Wednesday night. This is incredible. The highest offer is $270,000, all cash, quick closing. They want to move fast. $270,000. For a house I'd bought for $200,000. After agent fees and closing costs, I'd walk away with about $240,000. Money that was mine, that I'd earned, that I could use to build the life I wanted instead of the life everyone else expected me to have. Accept it, I said. You're sure? We could counter, maybe get more. I'm sure. I want this done. Okay. I'll draw up the paperwork. We can close in 30 days if everything goes smoothly. When I hung up, I sat in Phoebe's living room and let the reality sink in. In 30 days, that chapter of my life would be over. The house would belong to someone else. Brielle would have to face the consequences of her actions. And I would have the money to start over. My phone rang. It was Todd. Against my better judgment, I answered. You really did it, he said. His voice was flat, emotionless. You really sold the house. I accepted an offer, yes. Brielle is devastated. She's been crying for days. She and Jeremy were planning their whole life in that house. Then she should have thought about that before she decided I wasn't good enough to invite to her wedding. She was pressured by Nicole's family. They made her feel like she had to choose. And she chose. She chose them over me. You chose them over me. Now I'm choosing myself. How does that feel? Todd was quiet for a long moment. I never thought you could be this cold. I'm not cold, Todd. I'm done. There's a difference. What about us? What about our marriage? Our marriage ended the day you went to that wedding without me. It ended when you sent $50,000 to your ex-wife behind my back. It ended when you decided that keeping secrets was more important than being honest with your wife. I want to fix this. Tell me how to fix this. You can't. Some things can't be fixed. They can only be ended. I love you, Simone. Those words, which should have meant something, felt empty. If you loved me, you would have invited me to that wedding. If you loved me, you would have been honest about Nicole. If you loved me, you wouldn't have let me be erased from our daughter's life. She's my daughter, not yours. There it was again. That phrase that cut deeper than anything else. After everything I'd done, everything I'd sacrificed, I would never be Brielle's real mother. Not to Todd, not to Brielle, not to anyone. You're right, I said calmly. She's not my daughter. And you're not my husband. Not anymore. My lawyer will be in touch about dividing the rest of our assets. I hung up before he could respond. Then I blocked his number too. Phoebe came into the room. She'd been listening from the kitchen. How do you feel? Free, I said. And I meant it. The house closed escrow in 28 days, 2 days ahead of schedule. The buyers were a young couple with a baby on the way, and they were thrilled with the property. I signed the final paperwork in Phoebe's office, and just like that, it was done. Patricia handed me a check for $242,000. I stared at it, at all those zeros, and felt nothing but relief. Congratulations, Patricia said. This was one of the smoothest sales I've ever handled. After she left, Phoebe and I sat in her office in silence. What are you going to do with the money? She finally asked. I don't know yet. But for the first time in my life, I get to decide that for myself. Of course, the peace didn't last long. That evening, I got dozens of calls from numbers I didn't recognize. When I finally answered one, it was Todd's mother. How could you do this to our family? She demanded. That house was Brielle's future. You had no right. I had every right. It was my house, bought with my money. After everything we've done for you. We welcomed you into this family, treated you like one of us. I almost laughed. You welcome me? Margaret, you told Todd not to marry me because you didn't think I was good enough for him. You said nurses weren't professional enough for your family. The only reason you tolerated me was because I took care of Brielle so Todd could focus on his career. That's not true. Yes, it is. And you know what? I'm done pretending. I'm done being grateful for being allowed to exist in this family. I gave 21 years, and what did I get? A secret wedding and a husband who's been funding his ex-wife's comeback tour. I hung up and blocked her number too. Then I went through my phone and blocked everyone from Todd's side of the family. His brother, his sister, his cousins. Every single one of them had been at that wedding, smiling and celebrating while I was at home, completely unaware. The divorce proceedings moved forward. Todd tried to claim he deserved half the money from the house sale, but Phoebe had all the documentation ready. Pay stubs showing I'd earned and saved that money before we fully combined finances. Bank records showing the money came from my separate account. The judge ruled in my favor. The house money was mine alone. Dividing the marital assets was more complicated. Todd wanted to keep the family home, but he couldn't afford to buy me out. We'd have to sell it. The retirement accounts got split 50-50. The cars were easy, I took mine, he took his. What surprised me was how little I cared about any of it. The furniture, the dishes, the photo albums, none of it mattered. Let him have it all. I just wanted to be free. During this time, I'd moved from Phoebe's guest room into a small apartment. It was quiet and empty, but it was mine. No one else's memories here. No one else's expectations. Just me and my thoughts. I also started therapy. Phoebe had recommended a counselor named Dr. Reeves, who specialized in family trauma. At first, I resisted. I didn't think of myself as traumatized. But after the first session, I realized how much I'd been holding in. You spent 21 years trying to earn love from people who had already decided you weren't enough, Dr. Reeves said during our third session. That's exhausting. I thought if I just did enough, gave enough, loved enough, they'd see me as family. But love isn't transactional. Real love doesn't require you to prove your worth. It accepts you as you are. Those words stayed with me. I'd spent so long trying to prove I was worthy of being Brielle's mother, of being part of Todd's family, that I'd forgotten I was already worthy. I didn't need their validation. The calls and texts continued for weeks. Brielle left crying voicemails. Todd sent emails trying to explain himself. His family sent messages calling me selfish and cruel. I ignored all of it. Then, about 6 weeks after I sold the house, something interesting happened. I got a call from a number with an area code I didn't recognize. Curious, I answered. Hello? Simone? This is Nicole. My blood went cold. Brielle's biological mother. The woman who'd been part of stealing my daughter from me. The woman Todd had been secretly funding for years. What do you want? I wanted to apologize. I almost hung up, but something made me stay on the line. Apologize for what? For what happened at the wedding. For how Brielle treated you. I know I'm partly responsible. Partly? You've been poisoning her against me for years. You're right. I have. And I'm sorry. Her voice sounded sincere, but I didn't trust it. Why now? Why call me now? Because I've been watching what you did, selling the house, divorcing Todd. And I realized you're stronger than I ever gave you credit for. I thought you'd just take it, just accept being pushed aside. But you didn't. You fought back. I'm not interested in your respect, Nicole. I know. But I wanted to tell you the truth. Brielle's marriage is already having problems. Jeremy lost his job and they're struggling. She's been calling Todd asking for money, asking to stay in the house. When she found out you sold it, she blamed me. She said if I hadn't pushed her to exclude you, none of this would have happened. Is this supposed to make me feel better? No. I just thought you should know that your decision to stand up for yourself has made waves. Brielle is starting to realize what she lost. Todd is realizing what he threw away. His family is starting to see that maybe they were wrong about you. I don't care what they think anymore. I know. That's what makes you stronger than all of us. After Nicole hung up, I sat in my apartment for a long time, thinking. Part of me felt vindicated. They were facing consequences. But another part of me just felt sad. Sad for the years we'd lost, sad for what could have been. But I didn't regret selling the house. I didn't regret divorcing Todd. I didn't regret any of it. Because for the first time in my adult life, I was living for myself. The divorce was finalized 3 months after I filed. I got the papers in the mail on a Tuesday. After 21 years of marriage, it was over. I was single again. Phoebe took me out to celebrate. How does it feel? She asked. Scary, I admitted. But also exciting. I have money saved, no obligations, and my whole life ahead of me. I can do anything I want. So what do you want to do? I thought about it. For years, I dreamed of opening an art gallery. I loved art, loved discovering new artists, loved the idea of creating a space where beauty and creativity could flourish. But I'd always pushed that dream aside, telling myself we needed the money for other things. Brielle's college. Todd's business expenses. The house. Everything except my dreams. I want to open an art gallery, I said out loud for the first time in years. Phoebe grinned. Then do it. I spent the next few weeks researching what it would take to open a gallery. Location, licensing, insurance, inventory. It was overwhelming but exciting. For the first time in years, I was working towards something that was mine alone. I found a small storefront in the arts district downtown. It had big windows, good light, and space for both exhibitions and a small office. The rent was reasonable, and the landlord liked the idea of having an art gallery in the building. While I was negotiating the lease, I ran into someone I never expected to see. I was at a coffee shop near the future gallery when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Simone. I turned and saw Brielle's godmother, Teresa. She'd been at the wedding, I remembered, smiling in the photos. We'd been close once before everything fell apart. Teresa. I kept my voice neutral. Can we talk? Please? Part of me wanted to say no, but curiosity won out. We sat at a table in the corner, away from other customers. I've been wanting to call you, Teresa said. But I didn't know if you'd answer. Probably not. She nodded, accepting that. I need to tell you something. About the wedding, about everything. You deserve to know the truth. I already know the truth. Brielle didn't want me there. That's not the whole story. Teresa took a deep breath. Nicole has been planning this for years. She came back into Brielle's life about 3 years ago, right after she got out of her last rehab. At first it seemed innocent. She just wanted to reconnect with her daughter. But then she started manipulating Brielle. How? She told Brielle that you had poisoned Todd against her when she was a kid. That you convinced Todd to keep Brielle away from her. She made herself out to be the victim and you the villain. My stomach turned. That's not true. Nicole abandoned Brielle. She chose drugs over her daughter. I had nothing to do with that. I know. But Nicole is good at lying. She always has been. She told Brielle that she tried to visit over the years, but you wouldn't let her. She said you threatened to call the police if she came around. She painted this whole picture of you as controlling and cruel. And Brielle believed her? Brielle wanted to believe her. She wanted to believe her biological mother cared, that there was some reason beyond addiction that kept them apart. Nicole gave her that reason. You. I felt like I'd been punched. Why didn't anyone tell me this? Because we didn't realize how bad it had gotten until the wedding planning started. By then, Nicole had convinced Brielle that you'd be angry if she was involved. She said you'd make the wedding about yourself, that you'd try to compete with her. She planted all these seeds of doubt and they grew. And Todd? Did he know all this? Teresa looked uncomfortable. Todd knew some of it. But he was caught between his daughter and his wife. He thought if he just kept the peace, eventually Brielle would realize the truth. He didn't want to force her to choose. So he let me be the one pushed out instead. Yes. And he's regretted it every day since. He's miserable, Simone. He knows he made a terrible mistake. I didn't feel sorry for Todd. He'd made his choice and now he had to live with it. Why are you telling me this now? Because Nicole's manipulation didn't stop at the wedding. She's been asking Brielle and Todd for money constantly. She tells them she needs it for her business, for therapy, for living expenses. But I've seen her posts on social media. She's going on vacations, buying expensive things. She's using them. That's their problem, not mine. I know. But I thought you should know you weren't crazy. You weren't wrong to feel hurt. What happened at that wedding was calculated cruelty, and Nicole orchestrated most of it. After Teresa left, I sat in that coffee shop for a long time. Part of me felt vindicated. I'd been right. Nicole had poisoned Brielle against me. But another part of me felt even sadder. Because it meant Brielle had been manipulated. She'd been turned against me by someone who never cared about her the way I did. But even knowing that, I couldn't bring myself to reach out to her. The hurt was too deep. The betrayal too complete. Even if Nicole had manipulated her, Brielle had made the choice to believe those lies. She'd made the choice to exclude me. And those choices had consequences. I threw myself into preparing for the gallery opening. I contacted artists I admired, asking if they'd be interested in showing their work. I designed the layout, planned the lighting, created a website. It consumed all my time and energy, which was exactly what I needed. The grand opening was set for 6 months from the day I signed the lease. That gave me time to build inventory, get the word out, and create buzz. I named it the Simone Gallery, claiming my own name for the first time in years. 3 months into the preparations, I got a message through the gallery's website. It was from Brielle. I know you don't want to talk to me, but I need you to know I'm sorry. I'm sorry for believing Mom Nicole over you. I'm sorry for the wedding. I'm sorry for everything. Jeremy and I are getting divorced. I lost my job. Everything is falling apart. I know I don't deserve your help, but I don't know who else to ask. Please. I read that message 3 times. Each time I felt less sympathy and more frustration. She was sorry now because she needed something. Not because she genuinely understood what she'd done wrong. Not because she'd had a real change of heart. She was sorry because her life wasn't going the way she'd planned. I didn't respond. A week later, Todd showed up at the gallery. I was there alone, unpacking artwork that had just arrived. When I heard the door chime, I looked up and saw him standing there. How did you find me? I asked. Phoebe told me where you were. Mental note, talk to Phoebe about boundaries. What do you want, Todd? I wanted to see what you've built. He looked around at the half-finished space. It's nice. Really nice. Thank you. Now you can leave. Simone, please. Can we talk? We have nothing to talk about. I know I messed up. I know I chose wrong. But I want to make it right. I put down the artwork I was holding and faced him. Make it right? Todd, you can't make this right. You went to our daughter's wedding without me. You funded your ex-wife's manipulation campaign against me. You let me be erased from the family I'd built. There's no making that right. I was weak. I should have stood up to Nicole, should have insisted Brielle invite you. I should have been honest about the money. I should have been a better husband. Yes, you should have. But you weren't. And now we both have to live with that. I still love you. No, you don't. You love the person I was, the person who took care of everyone and never asked for anything in return. But that person is gone. I'm someone different now. Someone who stands up for herself. Todd looked older than I remembered. The past few months had aged him. Brielle's marriage fell apart, he said. She and Jeremy are divorced. She lost her job. She's struggling. I know. She messaged me. Will you help her? And there it was. The real reason he'd come. Not to apologize, not to make amends, but to ask me to fix the mess his daughter had made. No. She needs you. She needed me at her wedding too. She needed me for 21 years before that. But I was good enough to change her diapers and pay for her college, not good enough to stand next to her on the most important day of her life. She was manipulated by Nicole. Maybe. But she still made choices. She chose to believe lies about me without asking for my side of the story. She chose to exclude me from her wedding. She chose to treat me like I was nothing. Those were her choices, not Nicole's. So you're just going to let her suffer? I'm not letting her do anything. She's an adult. She can figure out her own life just like I'm figuring out mine. Todd's face hardened. You've changed. You've become cold and selfish. No. I've become someone who values herself. There's a difference. He left without another word. I locked the door behind him and went back to unpacking artwork. My hands were shaking, but I felt strong. I'd held my ground. I hadn't let guilt manipulate me. I'd chosen myself and it felt good. The gallery opened on a Saturday in September. The weather was perfect, sunny but not too hot. I'd sent invitations to everyone I could think of, old friends, art collectors, local business owners, even some of my former co-workers from the hospital. Phoebe arrived early to help me set up. We arranged wine glasses, put out cheese and crackers, made sure every piece of artwork was properly lit and labeled. Nervous? She asked. Terrified, I admitted. What if no one comes? They'll come. You've worked too hard for this to fail. She was right. By 6 o'clock, the gallery was packed. People I hadn't seen in years showed up to support me. My sister flew in from Atlanta. My mother, who I'd been distant from while I was focused on Brielle, came and cried when she saw what I'd accomplished. I'm so proud of you, she said, hugging me tight. I'm so proud you finally put yourself first. The artists whose work I was showing came too. They brought friends, other artists, collectors. By the end of the night, I'd sold 3 pieces and had interest in 5 more. The gallery was a success. Around 8, I was talking to a potential buyer when I noticed someone new enter the gallery. He was tall, with kind eyes and an easy smile. He walked around slowly, really looking at each piece instead of just glancing and moving on. After the potential buyer left, I approached him. Welcome. I'm Simone, the owner. Nathan, he said, shaking my hand. I heard about your opening from a friend. This is a beautiful space. Thank you. Are you an artist? Architect. But I love art. There's something about seeing how other people view the world that makes me better at my own work. We talked for almost an hour. He asked thoughtful questions about the artists I'd chosen, about my vision for the gallery, about what had inspired me to open it. I found myself being honest in a way I hadn't been with anyone in a long time. I spent 20 years taking care of everyone else, I told him. This is my way of taking care of myself. That's brave. Or selfish, depending on who you ask. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is be selfish. When the gallery finally closed that night, I was exhausted but happy. Phoebe helped me clean up, chattering about how well everything had gone, about the people she'd talked to, about the buzz the gallery was already generating. That architect couldn't take his eyes off you, she said with a grin. He was looking at the art. Sure he was. I laughed, but part of me wondered if she was right. There had been something in the way Nathan looked at me, something that made me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt in years. Over the next few weeks, the gallery became my whole world. I opened it 5 days a week, hosted events on weekends, built relationships with artists and collectors. It was hard work, but it was mine. Nathan came back the following week. He bought a small painting, a landscape by a local artist. When I wrapped it up for him, he asked if I'd like to get coffee sometime. Just coffee? I asked, surprised at my own boldness. For now. Unless you'd prefer dinner. I thought about it for exactly 2 seconds. Dinner sounds nice. We went out the following Friday. He took me to a small Italian restaurant downtown, the kind of place where everyone seems to know each other. Over pasta and wine we talked about our lives. Nathan had been divorced for 3 years. His ex-wife had cheated on him with his business partner, and the betrayal had nearly destroyed him. For a long time I thought I'd never trust anyone again, he said. But eventually I realized that closing myself off wasn't living. It was just existing. I told him about Brielle, about Todd, about the wedding and everything that came after. He listened without judgment, without trying to fix anything, without telling me what I should feel. You did the right thing, he said when I finished. Standing up for yourself is never wrong, even when it costs you people you love. We started seeing each other regularly. Nothing serious at first, just dinners and gallery events and long walks through the city. But slowly, I found myself opening up to him in ways I hadn't with anyone else. Meanwhile, the gallery continued to thrive. I hired a part-time assistant, a young woman named Rachel who was studying art history in college. I started planning a holiday exhibition. I began to think about expanding, maybe taking over the empty space next door. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Todd's lawyer. He was contesting the division of assets, claiming I'd hidden money from the house sale. It was nonsense. Everything had been properly documented and divided, but it meant more legal fees, more stress, more of my energy wasted on him. Phoebe assured me it would be thrown out. This is a desperate move from a desperate man. The judge already ruled. This won't go anywhere. She was right. The case was dismissed within a month. But it reminded me that Todd wasn't going to let go easily. He'd spent 21 years with me taking care of him, and now he was angry that I'd stopped. Around the same time, I heard through mutual friends that Brielle had moved back in with Todd. She was working at a retail store, trying to get back on her feet after her divorce. Part of me felt sorry for her, but I couldn't bring myself to reach out. The wound was still too fresh. Dr. Reeves, my therapist, helped me work through the guilt. You're allowed to protect yourself, she reminded me. You're allowed to have boundaries. You're allowed to say no to people who hurt you, even if those people are family. But family kept trying to pull me back. Todd's mother called, crying, begging me to give Todd another chance. Todd's sister sent me long emails about forgiveness and family values. Even some of my old co-workers who'd known Brielle since she was little, suggested I was being too harsh. She's young, one of them said. Young people make mistakes. She's 24, I replied. Old enough to know better. I stood firm. I'd spent too long bending myself into shapes that pleased other people. I wasn't going back. The holiday exhibition was a huge success. We featured local artists creating pieces inspired by the season, and the gallery was packed every weekend. Nathan came to every event, helping me set up, talking to customers, making me laugh when the stress got to be too much. On Christmas Eve, after we'd closed the gallery, he kissed me for the first time. It was snowing outside, soft flakes falling past the big windows, and the gallery was lit only by the Christmas lights we'd strung up. I know this is complicated, he said. I know you're still healing. But I'd like to see where this goes. If you're interested. I was interested. For the first time since the divorce, I was ready to let someone in. Not because I needed someone to complete me, but because I wanted to share my life with someone who saw me for who I really was. Spring came, and with it, new opportunities. The gallery next door became available, and after crunching numbers with Phoebe, I decided to expand. It would double my space, let me host bigger exhibitions, maybe even bring in sculpture and installation art. Nathan helped me design the renovation. We knocked down walls, added skylights, created flowing spaces that connected the two galleries while keeping them distinct. Working with him was easy. He listened to my vision and found ways to make it reality. We'd been dating for 4 months, and it was different from anything I'd experienced with Todd. Nathan didn't expect me to take care of him. He had his own life, his own business, his own friends. We came together because we wanted to, not because we needed to. One Saturday afternoon, I was in the new space overseeing the construction when the door chimed. I assumed it was Nathan, but when I looked up, I saw Todd standing there. You need to leave, I said immediately. Please. Just hear me out. He looked terrible. His clothes were wrinkled, his hair needed cutting, and there were dark circles under his eyes. I have nothing to say to you. Brielle is in the hospital. My heart stopped. Despite everything, despite all the hurt, Brielle had been my daughter for 21 years. What happened? She tried to hurt herself. Pills. I found her in time, got her to the emergency room. She's okay physically, but... His voice broke. She needs help. Professional help. And I can't afford it. I lost my job 2 months ago. I don't have insurance. I don't have anything. I felt like I was being torn in two. Part of me wanted to help, wanted to fix this like I'd fixed everything else for so many years. But another part, the stronger part, knew this wasn't my responsibility anymore. I'm sorry that happened, I said carefully. But I can't help you. She's asking for you. She wants to see you. No. Simone, please. She's your daughter. She hasn't been my daughter since she decided I wasn't good enough for her wedding. You both made that very clear. She was wrong. We were both wrong. We know that now. Isn't that enough? No. It's not. I took a deep breath. Todd, I hope Brielle gets the help she needs. I really do. But I can't be the one to provide it. I can't go back to being the person who fixes everyone else's problems while neglecting my own needs. I won't. So you're just going to let her suffer? I'm not letting her do anything. She's an adult. You're an adult. You both made choices and now you're facing consequences. That's not my fault and it's not my responsibility to fix. We need money. For the hospital, for treatment. You have money now from the house, from this place. You could help if you wanted to. And there it was. The real reason he'd come. Not because Brielle genuinely wanted to see me, but because they needed money. Again. Get out, I said quietly. Simone. Get out of my gallery. And don't come back. If you or Brielle contact me again, I'll get a restraining order. Todd looked like he wanted to argue, but something in my face must have convinced him I was serious. He left without another word. After he was gone, I sat down on the dusty floor of the construction site and cried. Not because I regretted my decision, but because it was hard. Standing up for myself was the right thing to do, but that didn't make it easy. Nathan found me there 20 minutes later. I texted him after Todd left, just 3 words, "Need you here." He sat down next to me on the floor and held me while I cried. He didn't tell me what to do. He didn't say I should help or that I was right to refuse. He just held me. "Do you want to talk about it?" he finally asked. I told him what Todd had said about Brielle, about the request for money. "I feel like a horrible person," I admitted. "You're not. You're a person with boundaries. There's a difference. What if something happens to her? What if she tries again? Then that's tragic and it will be terrible. But it won't be your fault. You're not responsible for other people's choices, even people you love." I called Phoebe after Nathan left. She confirmed what I already knew. "If they contact you again, we can file for a restraining order. You've made your position clear. They need to respect it." That night I barely slept. I kept thinking about Brielle as a little girl, about all the nights I'd checked on her before I went to bed, making sure she was safe and warm. But that little girl was gone. The woman she'd become had made choices that hurt me deeply, and I couldn't keep sacrificing myself to protect her from consequences. 2 days later, I got a call from Teresa, Brielle's godmother. "I heard what happened with Brielle," she said. "I wanted you to know she's getting help. Todd reached out to Nicole, and she's paying for a treatment program." I felt a complicated mix of emotions. Relief that Brielle would get help. Anger that Nicole, who'd caused so much of this mess, was now playing the hero. Sadness that it had come to this. "Thank you for telling me," I said. "Are you doing okay?" "I'm doing better than okay. I'm doing well." And I was. The expanded gallery opened a month later. The launch party was even bigger than the first one, with artists from all over the state, collectors, press. Nathan stood beside me all night, proud and supportive. "Look at what you've built," he said, looking around at the crowded space. "All of this from nothing. Not from nothing. From me finally choosing myself." He kissed me in front of everyone and I didn't care who saw. This was my life now. My choices, my dreams, my future. Summer brought new challenges and new growth. The gallery was doing well enough that I could pay myself a real salary. Rachel, my assistant, was learning fast and taking on more responsibilities. I started teaching workshops on weekends, helping aspiring artists learn about the business side of art. My relationship with Nathan deepened. We talked about moving in together, maybe getting a place with space for both his architectural models and my art collection. It felt natural, easy, like we were building something real. Then, 6 months after Todd's visit to the gallery, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Simone? It's Brielle." I almost hung up, but something stopped me. What do you want? I wanted to tell you I'm out of treatment. I'm doing better. I've been in therapy working on myself. I'm glad to hear that. There was a long pause. I wanted to apologize. Really apologize, not just because I need something. I understand now what I did to you. How I let Mom Nicole manipulate me. How I threw away 21 years of love for what? For people who don't really care about me? Brielle, please let me finish. I know you don't owe me anything. I know I hurt you in ways I can't take back. But I needed you to know that I understand now. You were my real mother. You were the one who was there. And I threw that away because I was stupid and selfish and wanted to believe in some fantasy version of my biological mother. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to forgive her, to tell her we could start over. But I'd learned to listen to the quieter, wiser part of myself. I appreciate you saying that, I said carefully. And I'm glad you're getting help. But I can't go back to the way things were. I'm not asking you to. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. And that I understand if you never want to see me again. After we hung up, I sat with my feelings for a long time. The apology felt genuine, but it didn't change anything. The hurt was still there. The betrayal was still real. Sorry didn't erase what had happened. I told Nathan about the call that evening. We were making dinner together in my apartment, something we did most nights now. How do you feel about it? He asked. Conflicted. Part of me wants to believe she's really changed. But another part thinks this is just another manipulation. Maybe not conscious, but still manipulation. You don't have to decide anything right now. You can just sit with it. He was right. I didn't need to make any big decisions. I could just be. A few weeks later, I heard through the network of mutual friends that Brielle's marriage to Jeremy had officially ended. The divorce was finalized. She'd moved out of Todd's place and into an apartment with roommates. She was working 2 jobs trying to rebuild her life. I didn't reach out, but I thought about her sometimes. Wondered if she was okay. Hoped she was learning and growing. But I kept my distance. Then Todd called. Not from his phone, which I'd blocked, but from a work number. I know you don't want to talk to me, he said when I answered. But I lost my job. I can't pay rent. I'm about to lose the house. I need help. Call your family. I have. They don't have anything to give. My mother is on a fixed income. My siblings have their own problems. Simone, I'm desperate. Then get another job. I'm trying. But I'm 56 years old. No one wants to hire me. I've sent out hundreds of resumes. I felt a twinge of sympathy, but I pushed it aside. That's not my problem anymore, Todd. After 21 years of marriage, this is how you treat me? After 21 years of marriage, you went to a wedding without me and funded your ex-wife behind my back. So yes, this is how I treat you. I'm going to end up homeless. There are resources. Shelters, assistance programs. Use them. I can't believe how cold you've become. I'm not cold. I'm just not your safety net anymore. Figure it out like everyone else has to. I hung up and blocked the work number 2. Then I called Phoebe and told her about the conversation. Do you think he's really about to be homeless? I asked. Maybe. But that's not your responsibility. You offered him half the house in the divorce. He chose to try to fight you for more instead of accepting it. He made his choice. She was right, but guilt still gnawed at me. Had I become the kind of person who could watch someone suffer without helping? Was that who I wanted to be? Dr. Reeves helped me work through it in therapy. There's a difference between being cruel and having boundaries, she said. Cruelty is causing harm for harm's sake. Boundaries are protecting yourself from people who have shown they'll hurt you. But what if he really does end up homeless? Then that will be the consequence of his choices. The choices he made to betray you, to fight you in court instead of accepting the fair settlement, to not save money or plan for his future. Those are his choices, not yours. I realized she was right. I'd spent so long feeling responsible for everyone else that I'd forgotten where my responsibility ended and theirs began. The gallery continued to thrive. I was featured in a local magazine as one of the city's up-and-coming business owners. The article talked about my journey, about leaving a career in nursing to pursue my dream, about building something from nothing. Nathan surprised me by having the article framed. For those days when you doubt yourself, he said, hanging it in my office. Do I seem like I doubt myself? Sometimes. But less and less. He was right. The more time passed, the more confident I became. Not just in my business decisions, but in my life choices. I'd walked away from people who hurt me, and I'd built something beautiful in the space they left behind. 1 year after the gallery opened, I hosted an anniversary celebration. The turnout was incredible. Artists, collectors, friends, family, all the people who'd supported me through the hardest year of my life. Nathan gave a toast. To Simone, who taught me that it's never too late to choose yourself. My mother cried happy tears. Phoebe hugged me tight. Rachel, who'd become more than just an assistant but a real friend, told me I'd inspired her to start her own creative projects. Standing in my gallery, surrounded by beauty I'd curated and people I'd chosen, I realized I'd finally found what I'd been searching for all those years. Not acceptance from people who didn't value me, but peace within myself. 3 days after the anniversary party, a letter arrived. It was from Brielle, handwritten on pretty stationery. Dear Simone, it began. I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know I don't deserve your time or attention. But I wanted you to know I've been working hard to become someone you could be proud of. I'm back in school studying social work. I want to help people the way you helped me for so many years. I've been in therapy for 8 months now, really confronting the things I did and why I did them. I understand that I hurt you in ways that can't be fixed. I understand that I lost something precious because I was too foolish to see its value. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking to be part of your life again. I just wanted you to know that you made a difference. You raised me to be better than I was at that wedding. I lost sight of that for a while, but I'm finding my way back. Thank you for everything you did for me, even though I never appreciated it properly. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be happy. Love, Brielle. I read the letter 3 times. There was no request for money, no manipulation, just genuine remorse and growth. It didn't change anything. I still wasn't ready to let her back into my life, but it felt like closure. I showed the letter to Nathan that evening. What are you going to do? He asked. Nothing. Not right now. Maybe someday I'll be ready to respond, but not today. That's fair. I put the letter in a box in my closet, along with photos of Brielle as a child and other mementos from that life. Maybe someday I'd look at them again. But for now, I was focused on the life I was building, not the one I'd left behind. 6 months later, Nathan and I moved in together. We found a beautiful loft with huge windows and space for both of us to work. He proposed on our moving day, surrounded by boxes and chaos, and I said yes. We got married a year later in a small ceremony at the gallery. Just close friends and family, the people who'd stood by me through everything. My mother walked me down the aisle. Phoebe was my maid of honor. It was simple, personal, and perfect. There were people missing, of course. Todd wasn't there. Brielle wasn't there. But their absence didn't hurt the way it once would have. I'd built a new family, chosen family, people who loved me for who I was, not for what I could do for them. The gallery expanded again, taking over another space. I hired 3 more people, started a program for emerging artists, began planning a sculpture garden. My life was full in ways I'd never imagined possible. Sometimes I wondered about Brielle, about Todd, about how their lives had turned out. Through mutual friends, I heard snippets. Brielle finished school and got a job at a community center. Todd eventually found work and was slowly rebuilding his life. Nicole had disappeared again, her money gone, her interest in playing mother fading once Brielle had nothing left to give her. But these were just stories, things that happened to people I used to know. They weren't my responsibility anymore. They weren't my family anymore. 2 years after my wedding to Nathan, we had a daughter. We named her Joy because that's what she brought into our lives. Holding her for the first time, I felt something I'd never felt with Brielle: uncomplicated love. Love that didn't require me to prove anything or sacrifice everything. Love that just was. Nathan was an incredible father. He changed diapers without being asked, woke up for night feedings, took parenting classes, read books on child development. He was a partner in every sense of the word, not someone I had to take care of while also caring for our child. On Joy's first birthday, we had a party at the gallery. All our friends came, their own children running around the space. It was loud and chaotic and wonderful. As I watched Nathan chase Joy around, both of them laughing, I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was my mother. "You did good, baby girl," she said. "You chose right. It took me long enough. Better late than never. Some people never learn to choose themselves. You did." That night, after everyone left and Joy was asleep, Nathan and I sat on our balcony looking at the city lights. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "Walking away from them?" I thought about it honestly. I regret that it had to happen. I regret that they couldn't value me the way I valued them. But I don't regret choosing myself. That was the best decision I ever made. Even though it was hard? Especially because it was hard. The easy thing would have been to keep accepting their treatment, keep being their doormat, keep sacrificing myself for people who didn't appreciate it. Walking away was hard. Building this new life was hard. But it was worth it. He kissed my forehead. "I'm glad you chose yourself. Otherwise, we never would have met. 5 years after I sold the house, I got one more letter from Brielle. She was getting married again to someone who sounded kind and stable. She wanted me to know she was happy, that she'd learned from her mistakes, that she hoped I was happy too. She didn't ask me to come to the wedding. She said she understood if I never wanted to see her again, but that she'd always be grateful for the years I raised her. I understand now what you gave up for me, she wrote. I understand what it cost you to love me the way you did. I can never make up for how I treated you, but I want you to know I see it now. I see you. And I'm sorry. This time I wrote back. Just a short note. I'm glad you're happy. I'm happy too. That's enough. I didn't go to her wedding. I didn't try to rebuild our relationship. But I let go of the anger. I forgave her, not because she deserved it, but because I deserved peace. 10 years after I sold the house that started it all, I sat in my gallery surrounded by everything I'd built. The Simone Gallery had become one of the most respected in the city. I'd helped launch dozens of artists' careers. I'd created a space where beauty and creativity thrived. My daughter Joy was in school, thriving and happy. Nathan's architecture firm was successful. We had friends, family, a life full of love and meaning. Sometimes people asked me if I regretted the way things turned out with Brielle and Todd. I always gave the same answer: I regret that they couldn't see my value. But I don't regret learning to see it myself. Because that was the truth. Selling that house, divorcing Todd, walking away from people who hurt me, those weren't acts of revenge. They were acts of self-preservation. They were me finally understanding that I deserved better than being taken for granted. I'd spent 21 years being someone's stepping stone. Then I became my own foundation. And the life I built on that foundation was more beautiful than anything I could have imagined. As I locked up the gallery that evening, I thought about the woman I'd been when I saw those wedding photos. Broken, hurt, betrayed. And I thought about the woman I'd become. Strong, independent, valued. The journey between those two women had been hard. There had been tears and anger and guilt. There had been nights when I questioned everything, days when I almost gave in and went back. But I didn't go back. I moved forward. And in moving forward I found myself. That was worth more than any wedding invitation. More than any family that didn't value me. More than any sacrifice I'd made for people who forgot to say thank you. I chose myself. And it turned out that was the best choice I ever made.